What you think makes a brand successful is completely wrong. Most think it's about having the perfect logo or following the hottest design trends. But Dan Janssen, founder of Lincoln Design Co., reveals it's something entirely different. It's the heart and soul of the company, he explains. It's everything outside of the logo, the history, the messaging, and everything that happens before that. The brands winning today are treating themselves as characters with real personalities. Companies that tell genuine stories will thrive, while trend chasers fade into irrelevance. This is Anatomy of a Brand, where we obsess over what makes brands tick so yours never settles. This is episode 15 with Lincoln Design Company founder, Dan Janssen. All right, Dan, thank you for taking time with us. I'm stoked to ask you a lot of questions and to learn a bunch because you guys are an iconic studio doing remarkable work. So thanks for taking time.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
Stoked to be here.
Yeah. You guys have worked with some of the most notable brands, especially when you think about some of the disruptors in the space. You've got Liquid Death, then Harley-Davidson, Nerf, Fortnite. I think you also did a complete rebrand or some kind of almost like entirety for US skateboarding. Yep. Was that a recent one?
Yeah, that was. Yep.
Yeah, you guys have done remarkable work over and over and over again, but you also have a book called The Brand Design of a Brand Design Agency. And I wanted us to dive in first to the idea of what is brand design, what makes it effective, and how can you actually build a brand? Like from your guys' vantage point, you guys do a lot of interesting brands, a lot of the outdoor, extreme sports, some of these more, I would say, disruptors even inside of their spaces they're in. I'd love to know how you think about what is brand design, how is it effective, and how does somebody actually go about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's so many ways to look at it when it comes to like brand design and things, to me, it's kind of the heart and soul of the, whether it's the company or whatever it is, for us, that would be Lincoln and our company. And that's kind of why we did that book. But yeah, I mean, it's the history, it's kind of everything you kind of built your company around, kind of that messaging, everything basically outside of the logo, it's everything that happens kind of before that. So it was something that, we work with a lot of brands. We work with a lot of brands that already kind of have that process set in stone. We don't do a lot of startup work. So we come in to say a bigger brand, they kind of have that brand messaging and everything kind of set, at times we're brought in to, maybe revamp that, whatever it is. But we don't get a lot of like startup kind of build a brand from start and that messaging and soul and kind of background of the company, right? So in some ways it's different, the work that we're doing because we are, stepping in and almost being like an extension of a lot of these companies' in-house studios or design.
So what kind of problems are they facing? Like if we could even jump into an example, like a Liquid Death or a Harley-Davidson. Yeah. Like these are, like you said, well-established brands who have so much of their visual identity dialed. When they're coming to you, what's the problem they're facing that you guys are like, all right, we're the assassins that are going to nail that problem? Like what's the actual thing that they're needing you guys to come in on?
Yeah. I think on a like high level, it's a lot of times it's that they're too close to it. They're living in the brand every single freaking day. Like if you look at like, say, Monster Energy, like they have a large team of creatives in-house, that are doing, ads and motion and things like that. But, and myself, like starting out as an in-house designer at like DC Shoes, you're so in the trenches with the brand day after day after day, that it's hard for you to kind of step back and look at the big picture of like, okay, what are the consumers seeing our brand as, because
fascinating.
All of it, you're in the middle of it, what's coming, what you've done. But on the outside, the consumer, like a lot of times didn't see, the ad the year before or whatever that creative was the year before. Right. So it's hard for those in-house studios to kind of step back and really look at that. So a lot of times they'll come to us for like a fresh perspective on what's going on, what can we do, say different or expand on our brand, outside of what we've already done. And because we work in a lot of different industries, we kind of have a different perspective on, maybe what they should do next or what's coming up or whatever it is.
So when they come to you for this kind of work, what is like the process you're taking them through when you're going, hey, we know that you guys are super close to it, so you need to pull back and get a fresh eyes on this. Is there something that you start with? Is there even a question that some of these, people that are listening, founders, CMOs of brands, or chief brand officers or chief creative officers who are running those teams, is there something you're like, hey, I need to ask you this or start with this to get you thinking about this differently?
Yeah, for sure. Ideally, it's something that, we ask, like, what have you been doing over the last year? What do you have coming up in, next year? A lot of these companies are working, 12, 18, 24 months out, and that's where, like, to onboard us to, like, say a new company, like, say, I don't know, say it was Red Bull or something,
Yeah.
and for us to kind of jump in and get up to speed, it'd be like sitting down with the CMO and kind of going through, okay, even though we're fans of Red Bull, so we kind of know a lot of what they've been doing, but you still don't know what they're working on and what's coming up. So just kind of like, what have you guys done over the last, 12 months? What's coming up over the next 12 months? What categories are you guys going into? What products are you launching that are new? Kind of things like that, I guess. When we
So what are you sniffing for there? Because there's an element of your ability to discern that you can see in how you've pushed a lot of these brands in interesting directions with the way that you guys have. I'm a fan of your work, so I see how you guys end up expressing these moments with some of the other brands like Fortnite, Nike, Adidas, even thinking about Nerf or Tony Hawk. There's something, it feels like you guys are regularly looking for that lands you into these spaces where you make this and you're like, oh my gosh, that is incredible. How do they even start that road? Like, it feels like there's something you guys are looking for in those questions.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's anything specific. I mean, the one thing that's I don't want to say it's hard, or I feel like is a little bit different, is like all those companies, like the work we do for each one is so different, right? Like, it's like Monster Energy. It's primarily 3D and motion work, right? Fortnite, Epic Games, it is 100% style guides. We're building out these huge style guides. It's 12 months, and then we flip it and start over another 12 months. Liquid Death,
Wow.
those are kind of run and gun projects of like new products or new commercial branding for the new commercial that's coming out. So like everything, a lot of studios will, say focus on, branding and logo design or something. So they kind of can set up a process and questions, because most of the clients coming in kind of have the same problem to solve, right? But I feel like a lot of our clients are in such different stages, or we're doing different work for each one, that problem is always much different, where we're like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with this? So like Harley, they have like these events that are going to be rolling out all next year. So we're creating these badges and logos for each one. That was a much different process than, say what we're doing for Fortnite or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's tough.
But there seems to,
Go ahead.
Oh no! It was. There seems to be some resonance with the types of industries you guys kind of are established in, and the brands that come to you, because there's probably seeing that existing work of like, hey, they've done this brand, they've worked with this brand. We want to be in that kind of vein as well. Like, we're in the skate world, we're in the extreme sports world, or we're in the high energy octane environments like Monster Energy or Fortnite. Like, there seems to be some kind of common denominator between these brands that you guys have positioned yourself to be the go-to for that.
Yeah. And it's something like Dustin and I just did a talk at Phoenix Design Week and then Circles Conference in Dallas. We kind of have this whole talk on, building your personal brand. And so much of it is like, who are you? And basically on top of like, who are you? What do you like to do? Like, if you weren't doing design, if you're not sitting here at the desk all day, what are you out doing? And kind of building your career and your persona and who you are and your brand off of that, right? So at no point do you have to basically fake it till you make it type of thing. Like, you are who you are, And I think basically our background comes from that, right? Like, we started in the skateboard industry, grew up in San Diego. Dustin rode motocross, like, so kind of we always started in those industries, and it's just kind of it's continued, right? And we know them. We don't have to do a lot of market research because it's the stuff we do on the weekend, type of thing. So and
Love that.
fortunate enough, some of those brands are are fun to work with, and
Yeah.
and have become bigger brands over the years. So.
And I think you said something in that talk, because I was watching you post along your journey out there. You said something in one of your talks, or had a slide at least, and I screenshot it because I wanted to ask you about it, where you said there came a point where you stopped trend chasing and started truth telling.
Yep.
And unpack that for me. What was happening that you're like, hey, that's the statement that encompasses what we're talking about?
Yeah, so it was when we first moved. So I had a studio in San Diego for 10 years, shut that down in 2015, moved it up to Portland, Oregon here, and came up here and basically changed the name of the company, brought 4 of my employees with me. So when we landed up here, it's kind of like, okay, shit, well, got to educate all of our current clients on the new name, let them know it's the same team, you're going to get the same service, same product. At the same time, wanted to educate new clients, like, hey, this is Lincoln, this is what we do, right? So we basically kind of built out this poster and brand kit of a bunch of different logos. We didn't want to commit to one. We had everybody in the team kind of pitch in, and
It's so good.
Yeah,
It looks so good.
like, shit, like, how do we pick one? We're like, fuck it, let's not pick one. Let's just let's build out a poster with it, let's ship this out to all of our current clients, we'll ship to a couple companies we want to work with, and kind of see what happens from there. And so it worked out well where we started getting the first project was a Nike project. And we've been working with Nike for years, and they have this kind of structure of a brief they send over, right? And it has like references and kind of a mood board, and then it kind of shows like what they're looking for. Well, we got a brief back that was basically that poster, and it was like with nothing else. And it was like, we want this applied to these products. And it was like, oh shit. Okay. Like they noticed, I guess it worked, right?
Yeah.
So it was something that we ran with, started making patches, kind of did that whole deal. And it was great, for the first, I'd say 2 or 3 years. And we're posting on Instagram, and this is back in 2015, right? Getting a ton of likes, this and that. There was just a point where it seemed like a lot of that shit was happening on social media, right? There was, and it was like, and you can tell, we can do it now today, where like you post a grid of like 9 badges, and you'll get a shit ton of likes, shit ton of follows, all this shit, right? And so it basically got to a point where we're like, okay, we're not going to do that. Like everybody seems to kind of have gone in that direction. Let's stop, like, kind of doing that. Let's just post like the work that we're doing. Don't need to curate it with a bunch of badges and kind of follow that algorithm. Let's just do our own thing, and so that was kind of the point that we kind of switched gears and just leaned in heavier to, we're just going to want to do what Lincoln is and who we are as a team, and kind of head in that direction. So that was part of that slide and that talk.
And that makes sense, where the pivot of like, all right, this is, you guys set a trend, people caught onto that trend and even started adopting that trend as their own. And then you're like, wait, we've got to do it again in another space. Okay, so let me ask you a question about building Lincoln's brand as itself, because you also, one of the things that I've been inspired by Lincoln is the ability for you guys to take a non-traditional route with how your own studio is positioned in the world. It almost looks like it's not even taking on new clients. It's almost like it's its own brand. And I've taken a lot of inspiration for that, for the stuff that we're building with our studio, is going, okay, they've decided to go, the lifeblood is client work, but there's also this like internal brand that you guys are stewarding and nurturing. Is what was that starting point? And then I have a follow-up question about the conflict of keeping that going while working on client work.
Yeah. That's a conflict. Yeah. So that was kind of that story of like, it kind of happened naturally, like in the fact that we wanted to get our name out there. We started making products. I'm a big hat guy, apparel guy, came from the action sports industry. Like I said, worked at DC Shoes. So that there was always this kind of apparel and product side of me that, go back 25 years, I maybe should have started an apparel brand instead of gotten to the agency life. but I didn't. Awesome. So I'm here. But no. So it's something that in some ways evolved naturally, where we saw the feedback from clients. We saw clients, basically going, hey, can I get a tee? Like, I love you guys' shop. Or like, I would ship an order and I'm like, oh shit, this is being shipped to Johnny at Hasbro. damn, cool, very cool. So it was something that like we just kind of noticed like, okay, not only are like other designers buying the product and noticing what we're doing for our internal design work, but also clients are as well. So then we kind of just leaned into it, heavier, started making like logo mayhem books and illustration mayhem and just more products. And then at the same time, when we moved up here, we started going to design conferences. Showed up at the first one, Crop. We were asked to do a talk and then have a table to sell merch. So we did that. Worked out really well. It was super weird. I mean, this is back in like 2016 because we were there. We have our patches. We have a skateboard. We got a bunch of tees and hats.
Which nobody's doing that at the time.
Yeah, there wasn't.
You're not seeing anybody.
Exactly. There wasn't a lot of people doing it. It was kind of like a select few of like there's 5 or 6 of us in this room. And we had a couple people ask us to sign like the skateboard, like our autographs, and we were like, "Well, this is weird. Like, we're nobody. We're just like 4 dudes doing design work, over in Portland, Oregon. Like, why the hell you want our signature?" And so it was cool, but it was super fun. And so we just kind of continued doing that, going to Creative Works and Creative South and some of these conferences, and selling more merch, selling more, hats and products. And the way it kind of, and it still to this day, it's almost like this natural thing of like, I kind of control like how much are we going to make? Do we need new hats? Do we need new tees? Like what book's coming next or whatever it is. And a lot of it honestly is dependent on what's coming up. Like for instance, this year, we didn't do any talks or anything until we just went on the road and did those 2 conferences. We only sold the brand book at those conferences, but in end of October, we're going to Adobe Max, right? We're taking the van. We're going to have a 20 by 20 booth. So for that, what do we need? We need a bunch of new product, right? So we're going to make new hats, we're going to make new tees, we're going to make a couple new notebooks and zine and have those for sale there. Whatever doesn't sell goes up on the website, and we'll sell them the rest of the year. So it's almost like it's something that I manage in the fact of like when we need it, we'll make it. We don't. It's probably 3 years ago. I tried to hire somebody to come in and basically ship and run Lincoln brand, run the store, and actually like have somebody dedicated to like looking at like, okay, if we're gonna do like a season of apparel, what does it look like? Price it out. Let's get the team. Let's assign it out to the team for projects. And I ran into an issue of like, got a ton of applications, and everybody I talked to, every designer that was, good. And I was like, okay, I got 4 people I'm looking at, get on a call with them.
Yeah.
And my first question was, is this your foot in the door at Lincoln to then end up doing like client work? Or are you truly focused on Lincoln brand? And all of them were kind of like, well, I kind of want to like do the client work. And I'm like, yeah, that's the last thing I want, is you in here in the, shipping room, hoping to get out of there into the studio to do client work, So I put a pause on it. I haven't went back to it as far as bringing somebody in. I think it's something that if we put a lot more time, effort, and kind of focus and structure to, we could do more with it. But for now, it's promo for the studio. It's worked well. It's got our name out there.
And has it created moments where you're like, all right, there's a tension between like build your team working on that stuff versus working on client work, or are you guys pretty like dialed in that way that you're like, oh, this won't disrupt our workflow?
No, it can create some tension in a way. Like even just with like me kind of signing us up for shit like Adobe Max and a talk in a booth and shit, right? It's something that now it's like, okay, we got this new event coming up, so we got these new projects. These need to be fit into the mix with the client work, and all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, okay, we're super busy because we got all this shit for Adobe, that needs to get done. But the team's kind of big enough now that I can kind of pick and choose, or like somebody will finish a project early, they're like, hey, I wrapped that thing up, it's good to go. It's like, okay, cool, you got another 6 hours today, let's jump on some of this stuff for Adobe Max.
Love that. Okay, so let me take
juggling act.
Yeah, I bet with the work you guys are doing, I imagine it's a massive juggling act. Okay, let me dive in a little bit your personal story. I remember reading in your book, you were talking about you crushed school and your portfolio work, all that stuff, and then you land 2 gigs.
Yeah.
And one is with a golf company
Yeah.
that was going to pay you more, and then you had DC Shoes that was going to pay you less, and you took DC Shoes.
Yeah.
What was it like? Why did you take less money to work with DC?
I mean, to me, it was a no-brainer. I knew the market. I grew up skateboarding. I went to school in Denver, so I basically applied when I was graduating, applied for a bunch of jobs in San Diego. Had a few, there was 3 or 4 offers. It was the golf company that paid more, and then DC Shoes paid less. But I was like, man, I know this industry. I know their team. Like, I feel like I can jump right in and hit the ground running, with a company like that, where the golf thing, I was like, I don't play golf. I don't know shit about golf. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to pay me more, but am I going to love what I'm doing day to day? No, so I went the DC Shoes route, and, good thing I did. It was amazing.
How long were you at DC?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
And you were doing primarily what when you were at DC?
Man. So when I got there was three basically designers, art director, creative director.
This is like, you're at the foundation level of DC.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, basically Ken Block, who rally car driver passed away 2 years ago. So him and Damon Way started DC Shoes. Damon Way is Danny Way's older brother. But Ken was kind of the visionary, kind of the marketing head, and honestly a great designer. Like, he had designed Blunt Snowboard magazine. He Drawers and Dub. They already had 2 successful apparel companies, this whole deal. So anyways, it was Ken Block's office. We had a big room of the creatives. One of the dudes was Steve Size, who's an old Pal Peralta Bones Brigade skater back from the 80s and 90s. So when I first,
these are OG people,
kind of walk in there introducing me, it's like, oh, it's Brian Thompson, Steve Size, Carl Hyman, and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, Steve Size, like Bones Brigade Steve? And Steve's like, yeah, man, hey, nice to meet you. I'm like, oh shit, okay. So instantly
in the mix,
intimidated, like first day, like, oh shit, all right. At that time, didn't really know too much about Ken Block. It's not like he was an athlete or anything at that point. But he was super heavily involved in every piece of like design. So we were doing I was doing everything from ads to 250 page catalogs, POP for in-store displays. Like it was everything.
Doing everything.
Every day, every week was totally different. But Ken had the final say on all creative. So he'd sit down next to us at our desk. Like, that time we're working in Cork Express, there was no InDesign, like, at all.
Okay.
So he's like in Cork sitting next to us, like, hey, move this, move that, make this a little bigger, logo bigger, So it was cool. It was a super rad.
Okay, let me ask you about that process, because I find that process to be so fascinating, because I had someone who, when I first started designing, who did that with me, where they were like basically looking over my shoulder and going like, fix that font, fix that logo a bit. And why do you think people aren't getting that right now? I feel like that's not happening as often, where they're getting that mentorship and that design, and like, I don't know if it's the freelance world, I don't know what it is, but they're not getting that, like, hey, we need to fine tune some of this stuff.
Yep. No, for sure. Yeah. And that kind of sitting, I don't do that a ton here, as far as like sitting next to somebody. Over,
I would imagine.
Over the shoulder, like move this, move that. Looking back, it was my first job, professional job. Like, I knew no different. So I'm like, oh shit, okay, this is how it works. Like, him and I, we're just going to sit here shoulder to shoulder and kind of get this thing dialed in right. Instead of,
It's so invaluable.
Yeah, no, it was, and we were in a small kind of space that it was easy to do that, as opposed to, say, there was no Slack, and even email wasn't email wasn't something where you're like sending designs to like Ken or anything like that.
You're still writing letters, man.
Yeah. I mean, it was, it's 2000, so 2001.
Oh man.
But yeah, I think it was great. It was definitely a valuable experience. And then over those 5 years, DC kind of grew like crazy. We had like 20.
I was going to say, gosh.
Yeah, no, it just blew up. And then they sold it to Quicksilver. And then that was kind of like a perfect time for me to kind of exit and start my own deal. So.
All right, I want to ask you a question. If someone came to you and was like, hey, we're risk averse as a brand. but we want to take more risks as a brand. Like say it's a CMO or a founder or someone, chief creative officers coming to you and they're like, hey, we're risk averse. How do you frame up them looking at risk differently? Because I notice it in you guys, even you guys, like you did a successful creative conference and you decided to go, we're not going to do rinse and repeat. Yeah. We're not going to do it again a second time, because if we can't do something interesting the second time, we're not going to do it. Yeah. Which is like, for some people, it's like, why would you do that? Like you just ran a successful conference.
Totally.
So there's something about risk that you're able to navigate. How would you coach up some of these people who are risk averse?
You know, I would say, and this is kind of what we did for the conference, like sit down right away and look at like, what does failure look like? Like if this doesn't work, you know, and we go in this direction, like what is the worst case scenario? Like, are we just going to lose money? Are we going to lose, you know, market share? Is the whole thing going to implode? Like, what does that look like if we make this decision and go in that direction, you know? So for like Into the Woods, like we knew worst case scenario, nobody shows up and it's a giant party for the studio, you know, like type of thing. nobody buys tickets, you know, because with like conferences, like once you book that venue and shit, you're committed, you know, there's no backing out.
Yeah, you're locked in.
Yeah, it's gnarly contracts and shit. So it was like, okay, worst case scenario, we know what this whole thing is going to cost us. If nobody buys tickets and no one gives a shit, we're going to throw a big party for our employees and the families and everything. You know, best case scenario, people come, we sell the tickets. And our goal was like breaking even. Like we did the math, like to make money on a conference and like walk away with like, whoa, I made a bunch of money. Like ain't freaking.
That's really hard.
Ain't happening, you know, like especially that's the
truth.
It's the truth. And especially if you're going to figure in your time you spent like to market and design and meet and lay out that whole conference, like then there's no possible way you're gonna make money, you know. So yeah, it's kind of like go ahead.
What was in your mind though, as the guy leading the tip of the spear in that? I want to get to the risk averse thing, but you said something there that I don't know how many people really value when they look at it and say like, hey, he literally said we might break even, but we're still going to do this. Yeah. Like some people are like, we're not doing it. Like right. if it's breaking, we're not like, what was your mentality there? Like, even if we break even, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Like why?
I saw it as a huge marketing tool for us for that year. Okay. I've kind of seen what going to Crop and Creative Works and a lot of these conferences, like what it brings like to the team, to kind of getting our name out there and stuff. And I think it's invaluable. I think it's great. You know, it's great to meet people, other creatives. I think, you know,
you're speaking to me right now because I'm running up against the idea of like, man, do we do an event like that?
Yeah.
We have we're part of a 27,000 square foot space that's got so much opportunity for these kinds of things. But I'm like, the break even, the reality is like, you're not going to make any money on this thing. Yeah. And so like, you have to look at it as marketing then at that point, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's a huge marketing expense for that year, but I do think like what you get out of it is well worth it, just as far as like notoriety or clients seeing or coming. And in the beginning, like kind of half of our idea for that conference was we would like to get some of our clients to come. We'd like to get a lot of professionals there, you know. There are a lot of conferences that are geared towards students and younger designers, which is great. Like those are needed, and honestly, that's like the core of kind of conferences. So ours, we wanted to kind of put a twist on it and try and get it to be like a lot more of, you know, professionals and things and clients that.
How did you do that? What was the way you did that?
It was just who we marketed to and like where we sent things out. I mean, I honestly recorded in this room like one-on-one messages to all of our clients, video messages of like, hey, we're putting on this event.
Oh, wow.
We got a spot for you. Would love you to bring your team. You know, because like I said, a lot of the companies we work with
so good.
Have large creative teams, you know. There's 10, 20, 30 people. I mean, fuck, you got Nike that's got 700 or 800 creatives on campus, right? So
yeah.
So the idea was like, if we can get some of these companies to bring their team to this conference, you know, and show them that, you know, hey, you can come to something like this, have fun, learn a bunch, get super inspired, go back to your in-house position and sit down and, you know, be ready to roll. So that was kind of the idea. So I did kind of go
Okay.
after our clients and,
I love that.
and we sent them personal messages of like, hey, we'd love you guys to attend.
Which says a lot about who you are, not just about the event. It says a lot about how connected you are to the work you do versus like being very distant from it, right? You had enough proximity to the work that you could actually send these messages and then be meaningful versus someone who's so detached that's like, what is this message and why are they sending it to me?
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
So if a brand is risk averse, if we go back to that, what are you saying to them? How are you helping them get out of that barrier? So you said, got to look at success, got to look at failure. What else are we talking about here for risk adverse brands?
Yeah. So honestly, I would say sometimes, and we haven't run across this a lot, but there are some brands that like just, there's no reason for it. It's like, well, why take a huge risk? Like you have this market share, you're doing well. We get so many people in like, I would say startups and companies that are trying to shift that are like, we want to do the Liquid Death thing, but in this category, Like,
I bet you do.
yeah, and it's like
They see Liquid Death on your name. They're like, we want to do what you guys did with Liquid Death. And you're like,
yeah, it's like
I don't know if you need to.
yeah, do you need to? Like, does that make sense? Like, Liquid Death has. So I recently, I was actually yesterday. I basically like asked this company like, explain to me the name. I can't really say it right now, and it's kind of a bit of a startup anyway. But it's like I'm like, explain to me the name and kind of the image you have right now because they have this kind of mascot thing and so the guy explained it to me, right? And there was a background to the name and the reason why they have this like tiger as this kind of icon.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, good, great. So there is a story, there's a meaning. Because like I was telling him, I said the last thing you want to do is come out with this kind of brand that looks a little bit different. It's a little edgy, it's a little wild. And consumers nowadays they're gonna do the research, right? They're gonna be like, who's behind the brand? Where did it come from? Like all this shit, right?
Yep.
And when they find,
they're going to call BS.
Yeah.
They're going to call BS.
Absolutely. So, 10, 20 years ago, like consumers didn't care. Like it was like, I need water, I'm going to drink water. Like I don't give a shit who made the water, but nowadays everybody's super savvy. They want to know, they feel like they should know. And if they're going to make that purchase, they want to know they're supporting the right cause or whatever it is, It's the same reason I do podcasts and Friday recaps and things like even in the design industry, when in reality, do people need to know who's running Lincoln or who's running, X ad agency? I don't know. I don't think so, but people do want to know, so.
Yeah. Well, there's an element to what you're saying that is the antidote to the AI age.
Absolutely.
Where it's the idea of like, okay, Dan is a real person, really doing work with a real group of people, and in that there's an authenticity that's going. All right, you can't make this up. There's no way. This is not some AI. Though there's a place for the AI stuff. That's another conversation. But the idea of, wait a second, Dan is bringing you back to the idea like I'm here, really doing this day in and day out. I think that's meaningful.
So thank you. Yeah. So my point to that and my point to like that new client is like Liquid Death. Like that was not just like, hey, let's make a freaking water in a can and throw a skull on there, right? I mean, Mike had a reason for it. Like, dude's never drank alcohol his whole life. He's in punk bands. He's at concerts drinking water, and everyone's like, why aren't you drinking? And then he's like, what the fuck? Like, why does water have to be in a plastic bottle and everyone can tell what you're drinking? And like, isn't there a better way to package water? If he didn't come from the punk scene and that background and music background and wasn't in that environment, like at no point would he have started a water company that looks like a beer and it has a big skull on it, right? So there's like this backstory and there's this authenticity to like Liquid Death and why it started and why it looks like it does, right? So I was trying to tell this company, like, don't do this just because you want, to pop off the shelf. Like there needs to be something behind this look and feel and name, and there was, which was good. It was like, okay, cool. Then let's run with this, so.
Because there is a shallowness that mass duplication or that people are doing going like, hey, that's a trend.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden you look deep in, it's like, oh, this is a product that was just part of some holding company of products that they just took the packaging and just made it. And there's actually no one pushing this brand forward in a way that has that grit to it
Yeah.
that Liquid Death had, especially because everybody sees Liquid Death and goes, well, look what they did with just water.
Yeah.
Look at their well, imagine what we could do if we made ourselves if we took over here and we started their one of their campaigns with the Mary Ruth's collaboration about the bedtime sleeping medication that they had where the woman is murdering clowns in her dreams. I'm like, you're not going to do that for any other brand because it's not who you are.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
It's not who you are.
No. Yep. So.
With Liquid Death, what has been a project that you worked on that you were like, this was rad? I know you guys have done a bunch, but is there any that stands out to you when you did work with Liquid Death?
Yeah, I mean, we've produced just some wild, fun products for them that was just like, wow. Like we just,
Shocked you?
yeah, just even like, cause sometimes we would go to them with like ideas or sketches or concepts, and a lot of times they'd come to us with like, hey, we have this idea. We want to, like, one of them was a body board and basically a boogie board, but they call it a body board. And we just illustrated this whole body on the bottom of the board. Right. And they marketed it as, this whole thing. And it was like, like great idea, super fun to execute on that. And then it was like, they're like, hey, we want to do a koozie that's something a little different. Like, can you guys come up with some gnarly 3D koozie? So it's like the dude's head with the top of the head chopped off. You put the water can in there, and so we did all the illustrations of it, and they produced it, and just fun, cool shit like that. That was all.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that so much. So, okay. And then, so you got the one brand who's like, I don't need to take a risk. Now you got the other one that's like, they don't need to. But in the other one, they're like, all right, we're authentic, but we feel like we're sterile. Like we feel like we're not standing out, but we're kind of middle of the road. Like, is there anything you say to those kinds of brands that are like, hey, you need to think like this a little bit, or where they're just like, we're a little generic and we're like everybody else, but we want to have something different. What are some of the things you think about for brands like that?
I think it totally depends. I mean, I think at that point, you kind of look at like what else is out there. Like, why are you looking like everybody else?
Ooh,
like,
yes.
In the beginning, did you look a little bit different than the market kind of changed in the aisle or wherever, say, the product is sold, if it is a product, like, did it change to kind of wrap around kind of like you in the industry, or when you launched, were you always kind of just this same old and looking the same as everybody else? I think some of it would be that, and then just looking at like quick, easy fixes of like color, font and brand choice. Like, is there a way we can update this without going total left field? And I guess doing a Cracker Barrel type of thing or whatever, and just pissing everybody off.
But somebody had to say Cracker Barrel at some point.
Totally. You got to say that nowadays, in every talk. So
yeah, yeah. So you're like, let's stretch you a little bit in this direction. Let's see where you go. See if we could add a change here or a change there. Now, with what you guys do when it comes to like looking at the future of brand work, when we're seeing all that's happening with AI, we don't have to talk about that specifically, but more so like when you look at companies going, what's the benefit of these branding agencies? Like what are they doing? Like, how are you and Lincoln thinking about the future of that industry and how you're serving these companies? Is there stuff that you're like, hey, this is stuff we're thinking about right now for our industry that we're paying attention to help these companies who don't really see a value anymore in this?
Yeah, I think you made the point of like, if you're authentic to yourself and your company and the background of your company, like showing that more and more nowadays, like you said, that's what AI can't do. I think that is like what every company has to do, and not every company has done that in the past. Like we have a new, it's like Pelican Cases, but it's a competitor of them. We're doing kind of a new brand launch with them, and it's kind of like that story of like, okay, how did this whole thing start? Like, who are you guys? What can we do to tell that story different than your competitors? Is there a story there? Maybe there's not. Hopefully there is, but I think it's a lot of that stuff of like, you got to get out from behind the curtain as a brand, become a human. Almost treat every brand as if it is a person, who give it a name, name your brand Johnny,
That's good.
um, and kind of run with it. I mean, Liquid Death has always kind of said that like they kind of look at the company almost as like a character or actor as opposed to a product, and it has a voice and it has a persona, and it is this character, and with that like everything is filtered through it. Like would the thirst quencher dude, like would he do this or would he do this, and like make decisions based on that as a character, as
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
opposed to looking at it as like a giant brand or product. It's like, okay, if this brand has a name and his name's Johnny, like what would Johnny do in this instance? Type of thing.
Huh. That's interesting. That's really interesting. All right. So what? Let me wrap up with this. Like, what's the future of Lincoln Design Company? Like, what's the stuff that you're thinking about for the ahead of the next year, 2 years, 3 year, whatever amount of time you got ahead of you? What does the future look like for you guys?
Future looks like, this is our 10-year anniversary.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Moved up here in 2015. I had owned just a studio. It's 20 years myself for owning an agency, so it's been a while, which has been great.
You're a rare breed. You're a rare breed.
Yeah, it's something that I talk. We have a lot of like I don't know people that are like, oh, I'd love to be like a Lincoln or kind of whatever, and I'm kind of like, I don't know if you would. Like, it's not as easy, or the road isn't like super straight. It's very much like this up and down thing. Over the last 20 years, it's been great. I couldn't, imagine doing anything else, and I love our industry and everything. But yeah, it's been 20 years, and it's going to be another 10 or 20. But yeah, for Lincoln, I mean, we have the 10-year book, which was cool to finally take everything we've been doing over the last 10 years, because I would say we do a decent job of like when we do something internally, like we document it, right? Like if we're doing a retreat, we're going down to Adobe Max, like we're going to shoot photos, we're going to shoot video, we're going to design some new, shit for it, whatever it is. Like all of our retreats, we do a whole branding package for it. Like a lot of times we'll do a new font, and it's just for our 3-day, 4-day retreat, but we'll do all that. So we had all this shit that like we had laying around, and it was like, hey, we gotta kind of get this all together in one area. So that was the 10-year anniversary book, which was super fun to put together. Moving forward, for me, it's kind of growing the company. We've kind of branched out over the last 2-3 years into motion graphics and videography. We have our podcast that we've been doing now for the last 5-6 years. Finally brought in a videographer full-time, Jake here, so he runs the podcast. It's much easier for us, like with having everything in house to kind of sit down and do a podcast, whatever you need to do. So there's a lot of growth for us, like in those two areas. We're doing a lot more motion graphics. We're trying to take a lot of these clients and kind of take them on that journey and continue to do that part of the work, because in the past it was like, hey, we'd do these projects, and then they'd move on to a different studio to do the motion work if they needed it, right?
Yeah.
So now it's like trying to keep all that stuff in-house as much as possible. So I want to grow that side of the business. But I've also always kind of like grown very slowly and strategically, like it's been 10 years. We have 15 employees, so I'm never adding more than like one person a year, maybe two.
Wow.
And it's very slow, and that's by design. I don't ever want this to be a huge thing. Like to me, like 25, 30 people is kind of like a good spot that I think you still know everybody, and you can still do fun shit like retreats and shit like that. Start getting 40, 50 people, and you might not even know some of their names at some point. So, like I don't ever see anything like that. So so yeah, I just want to grow the team, make sure everybody here kind of has a future for the next 10, 20, 30 years, whatever that is. So,
Let's go.
and that's kind of like what I've taken on now as a role in the company, is like my job is to keep the machine rolling, like keep the clients happy, the work coming in, keep the employees happy, make sure they have what they need to, do their job without being distracted. So that's kind of all the stuff over the last couple of years that I've finally made myself step out of. I've told people like I waited too long. I waited like basically brought on a project manager 3 years ago, which was way too fucking late. Like I finally had a client tell me like, Dan, you need to get a fucking project manager. I was like, shit, that's probably bad news. That it's probably not a good thing that the client project manager, because those first 17 years, I mean, everything, emails, phone call,
Yeah.
every project went through me and then out to the team, right?
Wow.
And it got to a point where it was just way too fucking much, and so we brought on
Yeah.
Brandon, and then we had Cleo, and that was the best thing I ever did, but I waited too long. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Man, well, you guys are truly a pillar in this space and truly doing work that is inspiring all of us to keep thinking like, man, we could do something special, especially watching how Lincoln has unfolded and the work you guys are doing. So thanks for your time. I appreciate you sitting down and talking through this stuff with me.
Absolutely. No, I dig what you guys are doing, man. I know you didn't get the podcast rolling until it's kind of still fresh and rolling, but
Oh, yeah.
it looks great. Like how it's very
Thanks.
professional and dialed in, and like that's what caught my eye at one point. I was like, what the hell's going on here? So props
Dude,
to you.
the day we got a like on our Instagram account from Lincoln Design Co. and from you, I screenshot it and I sent it to our team. I said, hey, I think my brain just exploded because these guys liked the post. I was like, this is insane.
Nice.
So to then shoot my shot on the DMs and be like, hey, like, how do I get Dan on a podcast? And your team was awesome at coordinating details and getting me set up with you. So kudos to your team as well, man. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.